Guys, today we are going to read one of my very favorite books from my childhood called Miss Rumphius. And Miss Rumphius is a person who spends her life trying to make the world a more beautiful place. This book kind of makes us think about the little things that we can do to make the world a better place and a more beautiful place. So before we read, I want you to think in your head or talk to somebody in your family. What is something that you can do to make the world a more beautiful place? What is something you could do to make the world a more beautiful place? All right, so this is a story that tells about one person from when she is a child to a very old woman. And there are three things that she wants to do in her life. So I want you to be listening for those three things. And we are going to read to find out what they are. All right, Miss Rumphius. Story and pictures by Barbara Cooney. I love it when authors also illustrate their own stories because it's kind of like they're putting what they envisioned in their head for the story right in the book. They don't have to, try and explain it to somebody else to illustrate it. They were the ones who did the artwork and the writing, which is pretty cool. All right, Miss Rumphius. The Lupine Lady lives in a small house overlooking the sea. In between the rocks and her house grew blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. The Lupine Lady is little and old, but she has not always been that way. I know, she is my great aunt and she told me so. Once upon a time, she was a little girl named Alice who lived in a city by the sea. From the front stoop she could see the wharfs and the bristling masts of tall ships. Many years ago, her grandfather had come to America on a large sailing ship. Now, he worked in the shop at the bottom of the house, making figureheads for the prows of ships and carving Indians out of wood to put in front of cigar stores, for Alice's grandfather was an artist. He painted pictures, too, of sailing ships and places across the sea. When he was very busy, Alice helped him put in the skies. In that evening, Alice sat on her grandfather's knee and listened to stories of faraway places. When he had finished, Alice would say, "When I grow up, I too will go to faraway places. And when I grow old, I too will live beside the sea." "That is all very well, little Alice," said her grandfather, "but there is a third thing you must do." "What is that?" asked Alice. "You must do something to make the world more beautiful," said her grandfather. "All right," said Alice, but she did not know what that could be. In the meantime, Alice got up and washed her face and ate porridge for breakfast. She went to school and came home and did her homework. And pretty soon she was grown up. That's kind of how it feels. One day you're eating breakfast and you're going to school, and the next year you're grown up. Luckily, I still get to do both of those things. Then my great aunt Alice set out to do the three things she had told her grandfather she was going to do. She left home and went to live in another city far from the sea and the salt air. There she worked in a library, dusting books and keeping them from getting mixed up, and helping people find the ones that they wanted. Some of the books told her about faraway places. People called her Miss Rumphius now. Sometimes she went to the conservatory in the middle of the park. When she stepped inside on a wintry day, the warm, moist air wrapped itself around her, and the sweet smell of jasmine filled her nose. "This is almost like a tropical isle," said Miss Rumphius, "but not quite." Here's the conservatory. It's like a greenhouse. So Miss Rumphius went to a real tropical island, where people kept cockatoos and monkeys as pets, She walked along beaches, picking up beautiful shells. One day she met the Baparaha, king of a fishing village. You must be tired, he said. Come into my house and rest. So Miss Rumphius went in and met the Baparaha's wife. The Baparaha reached himself, fetched a green coconut, and cut a slice off of the top so that Miss Rumphius could drink the coconut water inside. Before she left, the Baparaha gave her a beautiful mother of pearl shell, on which he had painted a bird of paradise and the words, You will always remain in my heart. You will always remain in mine too, said Miss Rumphius. My great aunt, Miss Alice Rumphius, climbed tall mountains where the snow never melted. She went through jungles and across deserts. She saw lions playing and kangaroos jumping, and everywhere she made friends she would never forget. Finally, she came to the land of the lotus eaters, and there, getting off a camel, she hurt her back. What a foolish thing to do, said Miss Rumphius. Well, I have certainly seen faraway places. Maybe it's time to find my place by the sea. And it was, and she did. From the porch of her new house, Miss Rumphius watched the sun come up. She watched it across the heavens and sparkle on the water, and she saw it set in glory in the evening. She started a little garden among the rocks that surrounded her house, and she planted a few flower seeds in the stony ground. Miss Rumphius was almost perfectly happy. But there is still one more thing I have to do, she said. I have to do something to make the world more beautiful. But what? The world is already pretty nice, she thought, looking out over the ocean. I love this picture. What do you think she's going to do to make the world more beautiful? Well, I hope that you're thinking also of what you might want to do to make the world a more beautiful place. The next spring, Miss Rumphius was not very well. Her back was bothering her again, and she had to stay in bed most of the time. The flowers she had planted the summer before had come up and bloomed in spite of the stony ground. She could see them from her bedroom window, blue and purple and rose-colored. Lupines, said Miss Rumphius with satisfaction. I have always loved lupines the best. I wish I could plant more seeds this summer so that I could still have more flowers next year. But she was not able to. I love lupine flowers. They grow really well in Texas. After a hard winter came, Miss Rumphius was feeling much better. Now she could take walks again. One afternoon she started to go up and over the hill where she had not been in a long time. I don't believe my eyes, she cried when she got to the top. From there, on the other side of the hill, was a large patch of blue and purple and rose-colored lupines. It was the wind, she said as she knelt in delight. It was the wind that brought the seeds from my garden here, and the birds must have helped. Then Miss Rumphius had a wonderful idea. I wonder what she's going to do. You can go ahead and you can make a prediction about what you think she's going to do. Maybe it has something to do with making the world a more beautiful place. She hurried home and got out her seed catalogs. She sent off to the very best seed house for 5 bushels of lupine seeds. All that summer Miss Rumphius, her pockets full of seeds, wandered over fields and headlands sowing lupines. She scattered seeds along the highways and down the country lanes. She flung handfuls of them around the schoolhouse and back in the back of the church. She tossed them into hollows and along stone walls. Her back didn't hurt her any more at all. Now, some people called her that crazy old lady. You can imagine some lady just throwing seeds everywhere. That might look a little crazy. The next spring, there were lupines everywhere. Fields and hillsides were covered with blue and purple and rose-colored flowers. They bloomed along the highways and down the lanes. Bright patches lay around the schoolhouse and the back of the church. Down the hollows and along the stone walls grew the beautiful flowers. Miss Rumphius had done the third and the most difficult thing of all, making the world a more beautiful place. My great aunt Alice, Miss Rumphius, is very old now. Her hair is very white. Every year there are more and more lupines. Now they call her the Lupine Lady. Sometimes my friends stand with me outside her gate, curious to see the old lady who planted the fields of lupines. When she invites us in, they come slowly. They think she is the oldest woman in the world. Often she tells us stories of faraway places. When I grow up, I tell her, I too will go to faraway places and come home to live by the sea. That is all very well, little Alice, says my aunt, but there is a third thing that you must do. What is that? I ask. You must do something to make the world more beautiful. All right, I say. But I do not know yet what that can be. All right, guys. So I want you to think about and keep thinking about what's something that you can do to make the world a more beautiful place. You may not know yet, and you may not know till you get older. Miss Rumphius didn't know what she was going to do until she was older, but you can start planning right now. For example, when I was little, I knew that I wanted to be a teacher. Okay, so I thought some way I can make the world a more beautiful place is by being a teacher and making children happy. And when people are happy, the world is more beautiful and it's a better place to be. So I want you to start thinking about what you can do to make the world a more beautiful place. Okay? I also want you to think about how Miss Rumphius was alone her entire life. And she's part of several different communities, right? She travels around, she goes and sees the world, which is something that I think most people hope to do. What are the different communities that she is a part of? And then I want you to think about what communities you are a part of. Sometimes when we think about making the world a better place, we think about, oh my gosh, I have to make an impact on everybody, but that's not true. The way that you can make the world a better place is by making a difference in your community. And community is something that we've talked about all year long in third grade, about how we have our classroom community, and then you have our school community, and then your neighborhood community, right? Maybe you even consider your family a type of community because people work together, right? So think about what communities you belong to and how you can make a difference or make those communities better, okay? And how you can make them a more beautiful place. Okay? All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.